Hello, and welcome to My Peculiar Life. This week I have the wonderful opportunity to have a couple of guests on the show. My good friend and very talented audiobook producer at Squeaky Cheese Productions and vocal talent Ralph Scott with his new friend Kiwi, the hissing hamster. Kiwi was acquired recently as a new pet. And I wanted to just tell you all before we tune in for the interview and actually see the hissing hamster that if you are a chicken, a cat, a dog, a hamster, a betta fish, a tomato plant, and you live at the house of the hissing hamster, you have the most wonderful life ever. So before anyone thinks about how devastating it is to see this poor hamster, I want you to know that we I did some research and shared it with Ralph, and we discovered that the hissing indicates the hamster is under duress, that it's stressed out. There's a woman here on YouTube, and I'll link her YouTube channel in my comments section, but she has a whole channel dedicated to caring for hamsters, the origin of hamsters, hamster behavior, hamster cage setup, anything hamster that you want to know, and she's really wonderful. And Ralph took this opportunity to teach his daughter about animal behavior, what the hamster needs, why it might be stressed out, what they could do to make it more comfortable. And they achieved that goal because the last time that I visited the house of the hissing hamster and saw Kiwi, he was not hissing. He was happily eating carrots and roaming around his nice habitat and living a good life. So, that being said, welcome to the house of the hissing hamster. I'm sure any minute now he will start.
Should I sound like a woman since I'm at the microphone of a female narrator right now? Should I sound like a woman?
Ralph, you can sound like whatever you want to sound like.
No, don't go there.
I want to welcome all listeners and viewers to the house of the hissing hamster.
Isn't that where the lightning strikes?
Yeah, it is. Tell me again why you procured a hamster.
All right, so the short story is that I didn't set out to procure a hamster. I actually went over to the local Petco and wanted to get a fish. But I didn't know that I guess Petco did some sort of like really intriguing, probably heavily researched corporate merger or something, acquisition. I don't know. But somebody at some point said, hey, we got an idea. All these pets should come with a veterinarian. And they decided to build out of 25% of the floor space at the Petco. They decided to build an animal hospital. Now, while we were there, I was there with my 10-year-old daughter.
And you mean the animal hospital, like literally, just the hospital for
well,
our pets?
I guess. I mean, I don't know whether they go beyond your domestic iguana or, into more elaborate animals or exotic.
So I can't take a demented friend over there?
You're welcome to try.
The dog?
But you probably want to make sure that friend is covered in feathers or something, because I don't know, or show up in have the friend in a tank. Blowing bubbles, because I think they're there primarily. I don't know. I mean, I asked
have friends who do that. So
well, in that case, go for it. But when I was there, it wasn't quite open yet. They were still, the walls were still, how construction sites have these walls that you have pretty pictures, but you can't look beyond them, and you're wondering what are those guys doing back there in those hard hats? Anyway, so so we were there and we went over to the fish section, but the fish were all gone. Like some alien mothership came and just beamed them out of there. There were no fish, and very rare for Petco not to have fish. And so I did see a few betas hanging out in their little Martini glasses, but I wanted to.
I also know some people who hang out in Martini glasses.
I'm sure, I have no doubt you do. And so I was like, her name's Lulu, by the way, my kid. And I said, well, they don't seem to have any fish today. And we walked up to the guy and the young kid, and we said, hey, we noticed your fish seem to be gone. and no tanks or anything. He said, well, yeah, we're opening up an animal hospital. And I was like, wow, that's cool. So, that got me excited because I'm always intrigued by people's ventures. And in this case, when a company like Petco makes a decision like this, it's really been well mapped out. And I was like, so like real veterinarian and all that? And he goes, oh yeah, there'll be a vet, there'll be a lab tech. And, I was like, wow, what a great idea. Kind of like, FedEx merging with Kinko's anyway. So, though some people wonder whether that was a good idea or not. In any event, so I wanted to get a fish, and there were no fish to be had except for this 1 or 2 betas. And I couldn't talk my kid into getting a beta because we'd already had a beta in the past and a beta before that one. And the fact that there was a whole chain of betas tells you how successful we were with these betas.
No, actually, your betas lived a good long life.
Wow. Well, as long as 10 minutes, then I sure. Anyway, so.
And just so everyone knows, the betas live in a big glass vase on the kitchen table with a beautiful plant. So any beta that comes to live at the house of the hissing hamster lives a good life.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that, and I hope that shout out to PETA. Anyway, so so she decided to look at the lizards, and oh, Daddy, isn't that cute? Lucy, that thing has fangs. Oh, Daddy, isn't it? Lucy, that thing's $200. So we went through that whole lizard thing, and we eventually found our way, or she found her way, over to the, I was about to say marsupial, but they're not really marsupial, the rodent section.
It's a rodent.
There were 3 hamsters in a cage. One was all white, if I remember, and one was sort of like a gray-brown, and one was mostly brown. And one of them was hidden under one of those little plastic bridge thingies, and the white one was on this wheel going around and around and around and around. Only this wheel looked more like a satellite dish, and it's going around and around and around and around. I'm like, oh my God, this hamster needs Prozac or Ativan or something, but it just kept going around and around.
There have been some innovations in the basic hamster wheel since our kiddom years.
Well, it's gone very high tech. I mean, this looked like the sort of thing that Elon Musk puts on your roof so that you can talk to StarNet or Starlink. And
So is it a hamster wheel or a gift from Elon Musk?
well, I'm sure if there's a business he can get behind, this would be the one, because I'm thinking if he had about 10 million of these hamsters going around and around and around and around, and he hooked them all to generators, imagine you could probably power an American city. But anyway,
so you're at the hamster cage.
Yeah, we're at the hamster cage, and I say to Lucy, what about this one? And she goes, no, I want that one. And that one was not the white one. It was not the somewhat brown and gray one, but it was the mostly brown one. And we get the hamster, and then, Lucy drifts off, and I start talking to the young guy, very nice guy, the sales guy. And I said, okay, so we have this big trough at home where we used to raise chicks, which are now full-grown hens living in their own house in the backyard and living in our house next to the backyard because they sometimes break in. And
what do you feed your chickens?
Pretty much whatever they can get their beaks on. I mean, I feed them salami on the side, much to the chagrin of my wife. But I find that salami to chickens is like crack. I mean, they'll jump off the ground and grab it out of your hand. So I have to kind of like throw it to them now, so I don't lose any more fingers.
So there you go, folks. If you take anything away from today, remember that salami to chickens is like crack.
You said it, and I got the video to prove it. So, so I talked to the guy, and he said, so you want to buy this? I'm like, all right, sure. And I said, should I get the other 2? The $20 a piece. And he said, no, they don't like to be together. And I'm thinking, well, but they are together. Anyway, so...
it's true, hamsters are solitary creatures.
Well, then why put 3 in a cage is what I'm thinking. But anyway, so actually it wasn't a cage. It was more like a fish tank. Probably the leftovers from the ones that no longer have fish in them. So we get this hamster, but before I get the hamster, he whips out this device that at first I thought was a smartphone, and then turned out to be like the kind of thing that like a UPS guy or gal has when they show up at your door, this sort of like extra large, thick cell phone kind of device. And he has me sign something in multiple places. And there's no time to read all the text on the screen as he's scrolling through. It's like 20 pages of all this legalese. I'm like, what the hell? I'm buying a hamster, right? I mean, this is not like buying Shamu. And so we get home and I find out why I had to sign off on all this stuff, because simultaneously he shoots me, or Petco corporate shoots me an email that has all of these disclaimers about pretty much every animal that they've ever sold and every species, and what can happen to you and what can happen to them. And basically we're talking World War III, post-apocalypse kind of type stuff. I'm like, oh my God, I had no idea that I mean, I guess this is what happens when lawyers take over the pet business, maybe.
Well,
But
it goes everywhere, Ralph, because the warranty on my electronic toothbrush is 14 pages long.
whoa, that's about, I don't know, 40 cents per tooth.
And it cost me $8.50 to get the extended warranty on my toothbrush.
Yeah. Well, how's that working out for you?
Good. I firmly endorse Sonicare toothbrushes.
Well, I tell you, I'm tempted to get something like that for this hamster, but before I get that, I'm going to get an exorcist because this hamster hisses.
And I didn't believe you. I must say I am guilty of scoffing. I did not think that. I just thought maybe the hamster made a weird sound and you were exaggerating. But
No. I mean, who would have thought this, right? I mean, I had hamsters as a kid. None of them hissed that I remember. But then again, maybe that's why I've been in therapy most of my life. It's starting to come back to me. I will say, though, that this one just doesn't hiss. I mean, it's not like a quick "ss." It's like "ss, ss,"
it is a demonic
Yeah.
squeal
Yeah.
tinged with a bit of pigness kind of sound, if that's a word, of pig nature, and on its deathbed.
Yeah, only it's not on its deathbed. It does this almost every day. It hasn't done it in the last couple of days since I've been giving it carrots, but it doesn't like to be disturbed, and
Well, who does, really?
it now sits underneath. We took all this, that stuff you put in windows around the holidays, particularly Christmas, the white fluffy stuff that they also stuff pillows with, or
Yes.
sheep pillows with. Well,
Fluff.
we threw that into this big trough, this like horse trough where the chicks used to live, and there's also plants in there. Or were plants in there the first couple of days. I was like, the plants are still there. So they have, little peppers I was trying to grow over the winter, and little tomatoes and rare tomatoes and hybrid tomatoes, and that's stuff you can easily come by. And the next day they were all gone. I mean,
Because a hamster needs to eat.
yeah, and I was feeding it. I mean, I was giving it its bag of food, and it didn't seem to be touching that. But it basically we're talking Vietnam circa 1974 napalm. I mean, it just went through and just cleared the place, strip mined or whatever that is, that stuff that they do in Oregon to hills and trees, gone. And
Kind of like putting a herd of goats on a hillside full of weeds.
yeah, and packing a herd of goats into a horse trough that is about 4 feet long by about 2 feet wide by about 3 feet deep, and the hamster was nowhere to be seen. So I, Lucy gently lifted up some cotton, and forget it. All bets were off. World War III, Armageddon, Exorcist, Damien, Chucky. It all came back with a vengeance, all in that 10 minutes. And it was like, and I was like, what the hell what did we buy? But that explains all the stuff I had to sign off on. Excuse me.
And I do have the video clip to prove it. I have never in my life seen or heard a hissing hamster. But to wrap this up, and in the hamster's defense, we were disturbing him, it.
That's true.
Mid sleep cycle, because they're nocturnal. So when we go in and pull the fluff off the hamster who's burrowed underneath it in the middle of the day or the late afternoon, we are interrupting him, and it would be akin to me marching into your bedroom at 3 a.m. and turning on all the lights and ripping the covers off and playing some loud music.
And if that ever happens, my wife might complain first. But assuming that doesn't happen, you can send me back to the Petco.
But you would definitely hiss if all that happened.
I'd probably do a little bit more than hissing, but there'd probably be a couple expletives in there, unprintables. A good thing this hamster doesn't speak English, or maybe it does speak something. We're just not, we haven't translated it yet. But I don't want to. I mean, I really do want to have an exorcist on speed dial.
Just for the hamster or in general?
Well, starting with the hamster, I'm sure there will be other applications. But, I think if we, I don't know, what do we do? Burn sage? But if you throw sage in there, the hamster might catch on fire. So I think there's something not quite right here, but it's for my kids, so I can't say, okay, hamster, goodbye, or okay, hamster, let's spend some time with father so and so, and call me in the morning after you've been thoroughly exercised. And I don't mean on the wheel.
And that, my friends, is why my life is peculiar. Okay, wrap.